So there are a lot of factors when it comes to dating: emotional compatibility, chemistry, physical attraction, just to name a few. But one book says a critical factor is financial compatibility, and it is often overlooked. The book, Talk Money to Me, the 8 Essential Financial Questions to Discuss with Your Partner, is available for pre-order now, and it dives into everything from investing to getting comfortable starting a conversation about finances. The author of that book, Jason Tartick, joins me now in studio. Good morning, good to have you here.
So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So one thing that you point out in the book, which I think is relatable to a lot of people, is that you don't learn about money in school. So you want to kind of change the narrative on that.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many things we're taught in our school system, but the things that I think that are so particular to what we need to know every day, we just weren't taught. So the book, Talk Money to Me, is if we're not taught these things, how can we know how to have healthy conversations about them? So the idea is, let's teach the things we need to know, but let's also teach how to talk money.
Let's bring up some of those suggestions that you have in the book. You cover a lot in the book, but some of the suggestions about things that you need to know in a relationship: credit score, financial accounts, how many of them do you have, what are your annual expenses? So why are these so critical to know if you are going to be with someone?
Right, I think we see the proof is in the pudding, right? So we know that 70% of relationships have money issues. Of the 70%, over half of them connect money issues to intimacy issues. So it's crazy to think that us not talking about money also impacts our intimacy. And some of these basic things, like credit, like understanding our outflows, our inflows, have a huge impact on our overall net worth. And our net worth is not our self-worth, but it has an impact on the success of our relationship. So
these questions, right, they're not the sexiest questions if you're trying to date someone or win someone over. But you say you don't have to necessarily say it like that. You can kind of make it a little bit more lighthearted to get to the root of these questions.
Yeah, so on my podcast, Trading Secrets, all we do is talk about financial transparency, but we do it in a fun way with people that you look up to. So we can have fun with money. I think we get so stiff, we hear money, we're like, oh, I don't know where to start. But like, have fun with it. Here's a good one. So if I asked you right now, you win $1 million, you got to spend every single penny of it. Where are you spending it and how? It's fun. It tells me about your behaviors, things you're interested in, right? If you tell me what is the most outrageous purchase you made in the last 3 years, what was it? Or if you went broke today, what is one thing that you recognize you overspend on? These are fun things to talk about that start the conversation and get it going. So you're not on your first date. What's your credit score?
Well, that's the next question. It's when do you bring this kind of stuff up? When does it feel okay to do so?
I have a little saying. It's a fun saying, but it's like if we're starting to think about sex, we can start to talk a little bit about checks, right? So everyone moves at their own pace, but what we do know is cohabitating or married couples are really, really struggling with these conversations. So prior to that is huge. But I always say with anything money, it's never too late, right? If it's not yesterday, make it today. And if it's not today, make it tomorrow.
In New York City, I feel like a lot of people find themselves in these very fast situations, right? Two people meet, their leases are up. It's so expensive as it is. So how do you set aside short-term versus long-term? I mean, I just know personally, a bunch of my friends have moved in with people very, very soon simply because of finance, but maybe they're overlooking potential deception down the line.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question because we did some work in studies and it says that relationships, there's 43% of them have financial infidelity. We talk so much about infidelity, not financial infidelity, right? So money arguments are the second leading cause of divorce, and financial infidelity is happening in 43% of relationships. Of those, 18% end up divorced. So I think what happens is when we rush for short-term gains, we're putting huge risk of long-term financial liability. And stepping into these conversations is important. Think about like just basic things. Like you go out to dinner and you're in front of a group and the waiter comes up and they say to you, are there any allergies or dietary restrictions? What do? We communicate those things to prevent things in the future, right? To prevent an allergenic outbreak. So why is it things like that we could talk about, but we still can't have any conversation about money? So we've gotten comfortable with so many conversations, but the topic of money, we still avoid, even though we know we're helping ourselves when we talk about it.
So let's just say you dig into the finance and you start to see all these financial red flags. What do you advise people to do?
So for me, it's like you said, net worth is not your self-worth, but you have to know it. The problem is there's so much deception, we don't know it. So if you see financial red flags, step one is like you're actually communicating about these things. When you show your cards, people will show their cards, and then you could build as a unit. And the issue isn't two people building and communicating as a unit financially. The issue is the deception and not talking about it, right? So when you see these things, I think the biggest thing is to not weaponize people. We are shamed so much in this country for not having, not making enough, not showing enough. So when people give you the vulnerability to show their cards and they're honest, we have to be delicate with that, not weaponize it, and use it as a means to create connection.
Yeah, and so much of that creates kind of the power imbalance or the power balance sometimes, which I know you talk about as well. The book available for pre-order now. Talk Money to Me. Jason, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest news and weather updates every 10 minutes and more. We'll see you then.